The Las Vegas Raiders already decided on Fernando Mendoza, and they decided it in March, 5 months before he ever threw a pick six in Houston. Between March 9th and April 7th, General Manager John Spytek committed more than $280 million in new contracts, and almost every dollar of it went to the roster around the quarterback rather than to the quarterback himself. I am going to walk you through how that decision got made, what it cost, and what it buys them. It starts with one signing that quietly set the ceiling for this entire season, and it was not a quarterback. Start with what happened in 2025. The Raiders' offense finished last in the NFL in points and last in total yards, and the offensive line was the worst unit in football. Ashton Jeanty still led every rookie in the league with 975 rushing yards and 1,321 scrimmage yards, which tells you how much was working against him. Brock Bowers played most of the year on a damaged knee and still made a second straight Pro Bowl. Then in March, one agreed trade collapsed inside a Baltimore medical room, and it rewrote the entire offseason. The defense got the larger investment. Kwity Paye, Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean, and Eric Stokes all signed inside a 4-day window, and Las Vegas traded Buffalo a 6th-round pick for cornerback Taron Johnson. That is 4 new starters on a team that finished 3-14. Whether any of it matters depends on a division where Denver won 14 games and Kansas City missed the playoffs for the first time since 2014. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Raiders and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 300 likes on this video. Let me be fair to the record before I take it apart. 3-14 is 3-14, and no injury report erases it. But the team that finished that season was not the team that started it. By week 10, the Raiders had lost their left tackle, their left guard, and their best pass catcher, and the offense that remained ranked last in the league in rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and yards per carry. That is not a bad unit playing badly. That is a unit missing its foundation. Brock Bowers opened the season with 5 catches for 103 yards against New England and left that game with a posterior cruciate ligament injury and a bone bruise in his left knee. He finished with 64 catches for 680 yards and 7 touchdowns in 12 games. Colton Miller, the starting left tackle since 2018, suffered a season-ending ankle injury in Week 4 against Chicago and played 4 games all year. Pro Football Focus had graded Miller at 89.5 in pass blocking before he went down. Jackson Powers Johnson tore up his own ankle in Week 10 and appeared in 7 games. Here is the arithmetic nobody ran. The Raiders allowed 64 sacks, the most in football, and Geno Smith personally absorbed 55 of them, a career high and a league worst. Cut that figure in half and you get a quarterback with a normal amount of time to throw, which is roughly what an average offensive line provides. Las Vegas did not have an average offensive line. It had the worst one in the sport, and the record recorded the consequence instead of the cause. Walk the season forward and the shape of it becomes obvious. Las Vegas beat New England in Week 1. The same afternoon, Bowers hurt his knee. By the middle of December, the Raiders had lost 8 straight games and sat at 2-12. And in one of those losses, the entire offense totaled 75 yards. Ashton Jeanty called that afternoon embarrassing. Head coach Pete Carroll said the staff kept waiting for the rookie to break loose and that it had been hard sledding. That was the season in 2 quotes. The staff changed in the middle of it. Offensive coordinator Chip Kelly was out mid-season, and quarterbacks coach Greg Olson called plays for the final 6 games. In December, the Raiders lost 31-0 in Philadelphia. Max Crosby went on injured reserve for the last 2 games with a knee problem, a decision he was openly unhappy about, and by January, he had asked the organization for a trade. None of that is a talent problem. All of it is a continuity problem. Pete Carroll was fired on January 5th. On February 10th, the Raiders hired Clint Kubiak, who had spent 2025 running Seattle's offense after coordinating in Minnesota and then in New Orleans. Reporting on the hire pointed to his record of improving offensive line play in both New Orleans and Seattle, which is the specific reason he fit this specific roster. Rob Leonard arrived as defensive coordinator on February 15th, and Joe DeCamillis took over special teams the next day. A head coach and 3 coordinators inside 6 days. That is what an organization looks like when it stops experimenting and starts building, and the money landed 3 weeks later. Chapter 2 of this offseason is subtraction, and it started at quarterback. Geno Smith went to the New York Jets in a late-round pick swap, with Las Vegas sending a 7th-round selection and receiving a 6th, moving up from pick 228 to pick 208. The Raiders paid most of his remaining salary to make the deal work, and Las Vegas had acquired him from Seattle for a 3rd-round pick only 1 year earlier. He had signed a 2-year extension worth $75 million in April of 2025, and then threw a league-high 17 interceptions. That is a fast and expensive round trip. The line lost more. Guard Alex Kappa was released in March, Dylan Parham signed with the Jets, tackle Stone Forsythe went to Carolina, and backup quarterback Kenny Pickett followed him there. None of those departures carried the weight of the Smith trade, but together they emptied out most of a rotation that had already failed once. Las Vegas did not try to patch that group. It replaced the group. Let me be honest about the risk here. Turning over an offensive line in a single offseason usually costs a team its early season timing, and the Raiders are asking new starters to learn one another in August. Kubiak rested Colton Miller, Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, and Max Crosby against Houston, which means the group Fernando Mendoza played behind Thursday night will not exist in September. That distinction matters far more than any box score from a preseason first half, and it is the part of Thursday night almost nobody accounted for while the clips were going around. That one signing I mentioned at the start is a center. Las Vegas walked into free agency with an NFL high $111.9 million in cap space, according to Over the Cap, and spent the first slice of it on the offensive line. Tyler Linderbaum agreed to a 3-year deal worth $81 million, including $60 million guaranteed, which made him the highest paid interior offensive lineman in NFL history, according to Adam Schefter of ESPN. Since entering the league in 2022, he has posted a 96.2% pass block win rate, second among all centers behind only Kansas City's Creed Humphrey. Baltimore rushed for 156.6 yards per game with him last season, second best in the NFL. He is the ceiling. The defensive haul arrived inside the same 48 hours. Edge rusher Kwity Paye signed for 3 years and $48 million after 30.5 sacks in 5 seasons with Indianapolis. Linebacker Quay Walker got 3 years and $40.5 million off a career-high 128 tackles in Green Bay, and linebacker Nakobe Dean got 3 years and $36 million. Cornerback Eric Stokes re-signed for 3 years and $30 million. Malcolm Koonce returned on 1 year for $11 million. And Buffalo sent Taron Johnson west for a 6th-round pick. Then came the quarterback. Kirk Cousins signed a deal reported at 5 years and $172 million that is functionally a 1-year commitment worth $20 million guaranteed, with Atlanta covering $8.7 million of it. He also happens to be the quarterback Kubiak coached for 3 years in Minnesota. Add kicker Matt Gay and fullback Connor Hayward, and the design is impossible to miss. Las Vegas built a roster that can function without a rookie quarterback, which was the entire point. Chapter 3 is the draft, and it opened exactly where everyone expected. Fernando Mendoza went first overall out of Indiana and signed a 4-year rookie contract worth $57.27 million fully guaranteed. He arrived off a season with 3,535 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions across 16 games, a 72% completion rate, a Heisman Trophy, and a national championship. Those 41 touchdowns led every quarterback in Division I, and Indiana finished the year 16-0. He also became the 5th Heisman winner the Raiders have ever drafted. The rest of the class went to the trenches and the secondary. Safety Trayton Stukes came off the board at pick 38, and edge rusher Kieron Crawford followed at pick 67. Guard Trey Zune III went at pick 91, and cornerback German McCoy at pick 101. Running back Mike Washington Jr. landed at pick 122 out of Arkansas, and he has now led Las Vegas in rushing in both preseason games, gaining 63 yards on 6 carries against Arizona and 56 yards on 9 carries in Houston. Las Vegas closed with safety Dalton Johnson at pick 150, cornerback Hezekiah Masses at pick 175, receiver Malik Benson at pick 195, and defensive tackle Brandon Cleveland at pick 229. That is 10 rookie selections, and 6 of them play on a line of scrimmage or in the secondary. Mendoza said afterward that the plan was laid out in advance. Coach Kubiak outlined for the team what the plan was going to be, he said. He knew the script before kickoff. Everyone else spent the week guessing at it. Now the trade that fell apart. On March 6th, the Raiders agreed to send Max Crosby to Baltimore for the Ravens' first-round picks in 2026 and 2027, including pick 14. It was the first time Baltimore had ever surrendered a first-round pick for a veteran player, and Crosby had requested the move in January after Las Vegas placed him on injured reserve for the final 2 games of a lost season. He flew to Maryland and posted about it publicly. Then came the physical. Baltimore backed out on March 10th, with medical concerns reported by both The Athletic and NFL media. And the Raiders issued a one-sentence statement confirming the Ravens had walked away from the agreement. Crosby had undergone surgery in January to repair a torn meniscus in his left knee. Within 24 hours, he was back inside the building in Henderson, telling everyone he was still a Raider. 2 first-round picks vanished, and so did the teardown everyone had already penciled in. Here is what that collapse actually bought Las Vegas. Crosby has generated more quarterback pressures than any player in the NFL since 2019, 360 of them, ahead of Myles Garrett at 331 pressures. He posted 73 tackles, 28 tackles for loss, and 10 sacks in 15 games last season. A franchise that keeps a player like that is not clearing the runway for a rookie to learn on the job across 17 losses. It is trying to win games in 2026, and that changes everything the quarterback decision has to accomplish. That brings us to the division, and this is where the optimism has to slow down. Denver finished 14-3, tied a franchise record for wins, claimed the number 1 seed, and lost the AFC Championship game to New England by a score of 10-7. The Chargers reached the playoffs as a wild card. Kansas City collapsed to 6-11 and missed the postseason for the first time since 2014 after Patrick Mahomes suffered a season-ending knee injury. That is the group Las Vegas has to climb through. The betting market set the Raiders' win total at 5.5 games for 2026, with Kansas City and the Chargers at 10.5 wins apiece and Denver at 9.5 wins. I think that Raiders' number is 2 full games too low. This roster has the highest paid center in football, a healthy Brock Bowers, a healthy Colton Miller, 4 new defensive starters, and Max Crosby still wearing silver and black. Here is the claim, and you are welcome to fight me on it. Las Vegas wins 8 games, splits the season series with Denver, and Fernando Mendoza does not take a meaningful snap until November. Clint Kubiak refused to name a starter after Houston. "We got another week. I don't want anyone to be comfortable in their job," he said. He also defended his rookie without hedging, saying the response after the interception is exactly what the staff has come to expect from him. Let me be fair, one final time. Nobody wins a season in August. Drop your record prediction in the comments, subscribe so the Week 1 breakdown reaches you, and keep an eye on the preseason finale against San Francisco, because the last real evidence lands Thursday.